a bit of hauteur there, but they give it to you.
There's another really interesting. There's Café Marley at the Louvre.
Oh, I love that. But that's one of the Cost brothers. The Cost brothers that have that chain of terrific.
Exactly.
How can institutional food be that good? Is what we want to know.
Well, I have to tell you something. Hotel Cost was the very first hotel I stayed in Paris. No, I lied. It's the second one. The first one was the Holiday Inn in 1995. Anyway, 1997, I was privileged enough to be checked into the Hotel Cost, and they have a beautiful restaurant and sort of club thing. Yeah. It's just kind of, it's a lounge. It's really a lounge, and everything is quite dark and candle-lit and very boudoir, which I love. So, and that's always a good feed.
It's always the place for the fashionistas and the models and artists.
Well, I loved it in the 90s. I'm not a particularly big fan of it now because I don't really enjoy those kind of environments. I'm not a really big fan of the energy that it breeds when you get that kind of... I think when you get a room full of pretentiousness, it kind of gets a little overwhelming, so I kind of have to go, and I usually do. I'm sure
you could stand up to that.
Oh, well, I kind of take the mickey out of it a little bit, you know.
Tell us about your entire life. I mean, we're not in 5 minutes.
Have you got 5 hours?
No. But it's an incredible trajectory, isn't it? From tiny Tina to this big international star now, and it's wonderful. We're all so proud of you, I must say.
Thank you.
But kicking off in, what was it, Teen Talent Time?
Young Talent Time, 1977. Oh, look, it was, what can I say? It has been an incredibly rich tapestry of amazing journeys, amazing experiences, lots of wonderful things, some pretty brutal realities as well, growing up fairly young, being confronted with lots of adult issues at a very young age. You know, the artistic world is a beautiful world and a brutal world by the same breath.
Do you think you're tough?
I've
or just resilient?
Probably tough is not. I think I'm a resilient creature. And I think that comes from my upbringing. I think that comes from the fact that I grew up in a generation where discipline and application was very, very much a part of what we did. I come from very traditional education. My parenting was very, very traditional and quite strict.
Where were you brought up?
I was brought up in Melbourne. I was born in the Queen Victoria Hospital, which has since been knocked down, and grew up in North Melbourne for a moment in Abbotsford Street, then moved to Moonee Ponds, and then did the rest of my growing up in East Keilor, which is not too far away from Melbourne Airport. Yep. So I had a very interesting... I'm a Western suburbs girl, and I had a really interesting childhood, a lovely childhood, actually. Rather peaceful till about 8. And then it kind of all changed.
Went pear-shaped. It's interesting. I worked very, very briefly in the recording industry in London, and I think of the artists that we promoted on the pop labels as opposed to the classics. And I think the whole history of popular music is littered with shattered careers, one-hit wonders, people who really had that taste of fame and then couldn't hack it or couldn't sustain it. You've actually been, over quite a long period of time, been able to... I know your age, but you're still very young. But you've been able to ride the wave in a way that a lot of artists haven't. You've moved from this kind of almost Shirley Temple figure, if I might say. I don't mean that pejoratively.
No, I had Shirley. That's a great compliment. Thank you, Leo. I mean, because she made an extraordinary contribution. Sorry.
But then you've moved into another world of musical theatre where you've played dramatic roles like Roxy Hart, and you've kicked along there, and now you're kind of the goddess of the Olympia in Paris.
Goddess of the Olympia.
Well,
certainly
it's
the
most famous music
goddess.
The Australian goddess of the Olympia, yes. But it is the most famous music hall in Paris. Do you get an extra energy when you play in there, when you say, OK, I'm on the stage where Bette Midler stood, and I'm going to be, in my way, as good to my audience as she was?
It's just an energy. I'm a theatre girl, Leo. I mean, I passionately love the theatre, so... I am much more at home in a theatre no matter where I am in the world, no matter how big it is, how small it is, how dirty it is. I'm much more at peace and feel that I can truly be who I am in a theatre as opposed to being in a huge venue that has no soul, and that people traipse through, even artists that traipse through those theatres. There's no soul, you know. There's no soul.